Prepare to be captivated by the business story of the week, hosted by me, Shaheen Shan. Join us on a journey through the twists and turns of entrepreneurial triumphs and setbacks. Immerse yourself in the narrative and witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. This is Business Story of the Week.
Welcome, one and all. Welcome back to Business Story of the Week, where we bring you the best and the brightest when it comes to anything business to complement your journey, entrepreneurial, executive, motivational, and boy, I feel like we're gonna get a lot of motivation today and a lot more than motivation. We have quite the achieved guest here tonight, I might add. Um, I get right into it. Robyn Benincasa. Am I saying that right,
Yeah.
Robyn?
Yep. You got it.
Robyn Benincasa is a world champion adventure racer, a 23-year veteran firefighter for the city of San Diego, a New York Times best-selling author, and a CNN hero for founding the project Athena Foundation. She definitely knows a thing or two about building a world-class team, succeeding against the toughest odds, and turning life setbacks into beautiful comeback stories. Robyn, before we got into this, I already told you I feel like there's no need for a long introduction for you. That is such a storied, like experience in what you've had right there. I really want to get into it right away, but first of all, how are you? How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Yay. Well, thank you so much. This is exciting. This is a thrill. So I'm really honored to be a part of this and to kind of share some of my background and experience in the hope that it'll help some other people live their dreams. I am great. I'm in San Diego today, and
All right.
which is exciting because I'm not here a lot. We're on the road about 180 days a year. So
Oh
every
wow.
day that I can be at home, running the trails here or paddling my kayak or kissing my puppy is a good day.
Oh, absolutely. Robyn, I'm speaking. I'm sure I'm not only speaking for myself and all the other audiences, and that I am very excited in what you're about to share us today. Let me get right into it. In your experience, because one of the first things that really stood out for me is like your experience as a world champion adventure racer and a veteran firefighter for 23 years. This is a really long time. How have you seen, and these are your words, and I believe that came from, I've heard from one of your videos. How have you seen the principles of human synergy come to life in high pressure situations? And what lessons have you learned that you would like to share to us when it comes to facing adversity?
Okay, let's see. So I come from a athletic background of lots of
Yeah.
solo sports.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, gymnastics, diving, track, cross country, judo, triathlon,
Wow.
Ironman. And I only tell you this to tell you that. I'll tell you that to tell you this. And that is that, solo sports were great and they were wonderful and they were fun, but boy,
Uh-huh.
did I learn something when I started the sport of adventure racing that's carried through
Right.
to everything that has happened for the rest of my life. And so in adventure racing, it's team-based sport. So you
Okay.
have teams of 4 or 5 people, depending on the rules of the race, but basically mixed gender
Okay.
teams. And the race director will ask you to meet them in these really remote places, like the middle of
Right.
the Borneo rainforest, or the top of this mountain in Tibet, or
Wow.
these just crazy out of the way places.
Oh wow.
And then they hand each team maps and road rules for the
Uh-huh.
race. And the minute they say go, you are kayaking, mountain biking, whitewater rafting, mountaineering, kind of doing whatever it takes to get the usually 600 to 1,000 miles to the finish line. And you
Oh my
navigate
goodness.
your own course the entire way. So there's not a marked
Oh
course. You
wow.
have to use a map and compass and figure out where you're going. But
Oh.
the toughest part of it is not only doing all the sports, but but there's a interesting rule in the sport that you have to start and cross the finish line with every single member of your team. So everyone has to be
Together.
within 50 yards of each other from start to finish. And
Wow.
it really brings up, something interesting in that, if
Yeah.
you lose one teammate in this sport, your entire team is disqualified.
Yeah.
So the focus came from just being really fast individuals to
Mhm.
how do I create that culture on my team
Oh,
where we're not just out here with each other on the race course, we're out here for each other, because that's the only way we're going to get everybody across this finish line.
wow.
Is, everybody has to be fully engaged and have that, 100% ownership the entire time. Everyone has to deeply care about these three or four other people, almost more so than you
Mhm.
care about yourself. Or
Yes.
else you lose. When people are dispirited, they're going to quit the race, and then you can't finish either. So
Yes.
so our team kind of created this, what we called human synergy, and
Wow.
it was all about how do I lend my collective strength to this team, and
Uh-huh.
and how do we get each other across this finish line. So in our case, it became literally towing each other on the end of bungee
Right.
cords, where like a stronger person in a particular moment would actually attach a bungee cord to somebody who maybe that particular sport wasn't their real strength, and we would just take them with us instead of waiting for our
Oh
slowest
my
person. Or
goodness.
we'd constantly move weight around. Like people would carry each other's weight. Like if you were stronger, you would look around and say, who else's weight can I carry? Maybe I can take somebody else's pack.
Uh-huh.
And so that created some real consistency of our success, was when we, thought of our strength as collective and also our challenges as collective. And we all left our egos at the start line, and we didn't see accepting help as a weakness. It
Hmm.
created some incredibly consistent success for our team. So we were world champions in the sport for over 10 years. And, it was all about, not because we were the most amazing athletes, it was the way we rolled. It was kind of this deep
Yes.
understanding of how we took care of each other.
Uh-huh.
And so, kind of, once I started in that sport and did that for about 15 years, this is where the business side of it comes in.
Okay.
Um, I am rambling on and on.
Oh, it's
The
good. Go
business
ahead.
side.
Keep going.
Okay.
It's a fantastic story.
So then I became a inspirational speaker totally by accident.
Okay.
So after 15 years of kind of racing at the top of our
Hmm.
game in this sport, well, it wasn't all top of our game in the beginning. I had a lot of last place, and but I realized, figured this out and got better teammates, and then learned all
All
about
right.
synergy. But we didn't start out at the top. But after 15 years of doing this sport, somehow our team in this sport caught the attention of Fast
Uh-huh.
Company magazine, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners, know
Okay.
who Fast
Okay.
Company is.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
so they wanted to do a story called Extreme Teamwork. And their idea for the
Right.
article was to get some of the world's most consistently high performing teams, like in these extreme, crazy, challenging situations, and
Uh-huh.
see what they could glean from all of us and apply to fast moving companies. So they got a hold of our adventure racing team, and I believe the
Uh-huh.
other teams that they interviewed were like from Industrial Light and Magic and NASA,
Okay.
and all kinds of teams that work in these incredibly challenging and fast paced situations.
Environments. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And they interviewed all of us and created an article about what could be applied to fast moving companies. And
Wow.
so they then had a reader conference,
Okay.
and they asked somebody from our team to come speak at the reader conference about our brand of teamwork, and
Uh-huh.
our brand of extreme teamwork. And
Yeah.
I like basically drew the short straw. Nobody else on my team would do it. And so there I was, like totally panicking, because I'm an introvert in my real life, totally panicking. And I made up a presentation called "The Essential Elements of Human Synergy,"
Wow.
and and I had to present it to all these big
Oh my
time
goodness.
readers of Fast Company magazine at this event, and I
Uh-huh.
thought I was going to die. But when I started writing down like what it was about our team that created this synergy, it was
Mhm.
crazy, because when I started writing all the things down, it was almost a perfect acronym for teamwork. And I
Ah,
was like, oh, like the angels were
there
singing, and I was
you
like, wait a minute, like this is.
go.
And so what I presented is sort of the model that these are the 8 essential elements that create human
Fantastic.
synergy. And it's a acronym for teamwork, and it's total commitment, to each other and to the finish line.
Uh-huh.
The E is empathy and awareness, that human
Uh-huh.
connection.
Wow.
Uh, the A is adversity management skills.
Diversity
What is your
management.
attitude through times of incredible challenge and change?
Yep.
Then mutual respect is the M.
Uh-huh.
And then we thinking versus me thinking. That
Okay.
idea about the African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, we all got to go together. Like
Yep.
thinking as, sharing our strengths and equally importantly, sharing our challenges. And how do we create that we thinking environment in a culture? The O is ownership of the project. How do you get that 100% buy-in? From every single person on your team, that they're never going to give up, and that they genuinely and
Mhm.
deeply are inspired by the mission and by each other,
Wow.
and they have ownership of the results. The R
Mhm.
is relinquishment of ego. Everyone's got to
Okay.
leave their ego at the start line. It's
Yep.
the heaviest thing in your pack.
Hmm.
And then K is kinetic leadership, meaning
Okay.
leadership that flows and changes from two perspectives. Changing
Okay.
leaders, meaning everyone on the team should be able to lead at any given time based on their
Yep.
talents and not just
Yep.
considering titles or tenure, because that's not
Hmm.
important.
Hmm.
Leadership changes constantly on a world class
Uh-huh.
team. And then the next perspective is changing leadership styles and knowing the
Uh-huh.
right leader to be in that moment, and having that ability to
Wow.
kinetically move from the coach, the friend, the visionary, the I know the way, follow me, pace
Yeah.
setting. There's lots of different kinds of leadership styles, and the best leaders can constantly change between them based on what their people need. And when you have all of those 8 essential elements lined up,
Uh-huh.
you have a world class team, you have a world class marriage. Anytime you're kind of connecting to other human beings, even if it's 5 minutes on a call or for a lifetime, if you have those 8
Precisely.
essential elements, you're going to have a great relationship. You're going to have great outcomes.
Wow. You really like rattled off some really great stuff in there. I want to highlight a little bit the bit of serendipity that you had in there, where you were you drew the short straw, being the speaker, and then coming up with this acronym that really resonates and that really communicates properly what you guys are really practicing in essence, right? Like what you guys are
Hmm.
teaching right now. Robin, I love that part, especially when you said highlighting the leadership qualities in different people. Of course, it's just one of the many acronyms of what you came up with. But I want to dig into that when you mentioned that success or perhaps inspiration comes from when you highlight the greatness of others, right? The leadership in others. I'm really interested, and I'm always a story type of guy. Can you tell me a story, like a precise story or an example where this approach significantly impacted your team's performance and morale, whether it be the adventure racing or firefighting? I am very interested. Tell us about that.
Like, you mean like a kinetic style of leadership, like
Yeah,
like
kinetic
someone
style
kind
of
of.
leadership, or anything that it is in the acronym of yours where you kind of had to highlight someone else or give way to someone else, and
Okay.
they're really highlighting their greatness and allowing you guys to succeed. Tell me a
Well, I'll tell you
story.
a story. I'll tell you a story about how we kind of came upon the concept of we thinking
Okay.
and this collective strength on a team, and allowing different leaders to emerge, kind of based on their strengths. And
Uh-huh.
we were at the start line of the World Championships in Ecuador, and right before like the gun went off, about 5 minutes before the start, which started with a 75-mile run at 14,000 feet elevation, my team
Wow.
captain turned to all of us. We're all standing there with our mandatory equipment on, our mandatory packs, like all the other teams. And he turned to
Okay.
all of us and said, "Hey guys, take all your mandatory gear out of your backpacks and make a big pile here in between us, because this isn't like his gear and his gear and her gear. This is
Okay.
our stuff to get to the finish line."
Okay. Right.
And so right before the gun went off, he started taking the bulk of the weight from the pile after assessing like all of our strengths and challenges in that sport,
Uh-huh.
in the sport of running at high altitude. And he
Wow.
realized I was probably carrying more weight than I needed to, and that we
Okay.
had other stronger runners. So he took the bulk
Uh-huh.
of the weight from that pile and he handed it to the two strongest runners
Wow.
for that first leg. And he just handed
Wow.
me a water bottle. I was just standing there with only a water bottle. And I was totally mortified, but I realized that he was right. You know what I mean? I said, can I just wear my empty backpack? And he said, no, everyone else, everyone else is wearing their empty backpacks, but you don't have
Uh-huh.
to. And here's why. Here's what we're going to do. Everyone on this team needs to suffer equally. And he
Okay.
said, think about it, Rob. If you leave this start line with your full backpack, your heart rate's going to be like 180. Keith
Yeah.
Murray, our strongest runner, his heart
Uh-huh.
rate will be more like 140. And he's like, if
Wow.
I can make
Okay.
both your heart rates 160 somehow on this leg by
Uh-huh.
giving him more weight and you less for a while, until we
Uh-huh.
get to a sport that's your strength, aren't we going to
Wow.
move faster, more efficiently if we're all, kind of doing this thing that we called suffering equally?
Oh,
And it was the first time overnight after that first day. We were not only moving weight around all day long, we also invented the next day after we took the lead for the first time in an international adventure race. Like
uh-huh.
overnight,
Uh-huh.
at first we were just moving weight around. But
Right.
then the next day, one of my teammates said, I think there's a more efficient way to do this. And so he
Uh-huh.
cut a piece of bungee cord off the netting in the back of his backpack and he made a tail at the bottom of his pack.
Okay.
And so that he was saying, what, we don't have to move packs around. If someone needs me, if I'm stronger in this leg, just grab onto
Okay.
me and come with me. And so we
Okay.
realized, like, why would we wait for someone who's challenged right now if we can just all have these little bungee cords and we can just take whoever needs it with us?
Wow.
And so it was like really in that race that we just established our culture, and we realized that I'm going to be stronger at different times, you're going to be stronger at different
Yeah.
times. Yes, we have a team captain, but
Yeah.
there's a big difference between management and leadership, right?
Yes.
Like you're always,
Uh-huh.
if you're a manager, if you're a team captain, you're always going to be the facilitator of your team members' success, but
Uh-huh.
you don't always have to be the leader. In fact,
Yes.
part of kinetic leadership is understanding that it makes my team stronger if I let other people emerge based on their strengths. In that
Wow.
moment, it could be the newest person on the team. Let them lead with their strength and not worry about titles or tenure or what it says on your business card. It's
Uh-huh.
like the newest person might be bringing something amazing, to the team, that unless you mind that or ask them and talk to them and say, where you're coming from, what's your background, what's your strength, what can you bring to this team, and you let them lead, with that strength. And so I was better. For some reason, women were better later in the race because we
Okay.
never lost any weight during the race like the guys did. The guys would lose
Okay.
like 15 to 20 pounds and we'd lose 0 pounds.
Oh,
So we
wow.
were always like, yeah, it's don't get me started on that. But it was it was crazy because near the end I'd be the one carrying the extra weight, or sometimes
Right.
towing people, or kind of keeping the team, keeping the
Okay.
team going, because my energy would sort of go like this and theirs would go
Uh-huh.
like this.
Uh-huh.
So there'd always be that point where we were equally strong for a while, and then I'd sort of start taking the lead more. I was also a really good paddler, so my strength was in
Right.
was in paddling. I was also a
Okay.
decent mountain biker, so I knew that my leadership and my strength was going to come in the different legs and later in the race.
Wow.
So I didn't worry about just having a water bottle off the start line, because I knew that the leadership on our team was constantly going to change, and that was
Wow.
just a hallmark of what made us great.
That's fantastic. It really is. I would like to also say that it really is like a hallmark of human synergy, right? That's
Hmm.
synergy right there. And and I would also say that what did you say, that is suffering equally is also
Hmm.
like a form of human synergy. And you guys made it
Yeah.
work so much. I love that. I love that story. I asked if it was either adventure racing or firefighting, if you had any examples around that. But I feel like this is also a good chance or an opportunity to kind of like start talking about Project Athena, right? Because you're taking this experience in like a team sport, and then you're sharing it onto us. But I feel like also Project Athena is now an opportunity for you to give back what you've learned and what you've experienced throughout your entire life. I feel like it's such a noble cause. And I feel like it's something that our listeners might want to hear. So tell us about Project Athena. What is a memorable experience or transformation that stands out to you when it came to starting that project or continuously running that project?
Okay. I'll tell you a little bit about it first and kind of how it happened.
Yes, please.
After gosh, years and years and years of adventure racing, I discovered that I had end stage osteoarthritis in both my hips.
Oh my.
So I started having hip replacements at at 40, which is good times. And so I've actually had 6 hip replacements now.
Oh, how did you handle that? Oh my
Be-
goodness.
because they all started failing because I would, I'd get a hip replacement, and then the minute I could walk, I'd try to start to run or I'd try to start to race, and I broke my
Oh,
femur. One of them broke my
okay.
femur. Another time there was a cup that went from outside my body to inside my body,
Oh
like the
no.
metal cup that was supposed to hold the ball. And
Oh
it was
no.
just, yeah, do not try this at home, kids. But anyway, after my first replacement, I thought, okay, what am I going to do with this? Like, I'm not going to be a really good adventure racer anymore. So
Okay.
what can I do with all this background and experience? And
Yes.
it just came to me one day that, I wasn't going to be defined by my setback. I was going to be defined by my comeback. And
Wow.
so I thought maybe we can do this for other people, like, kind of not have them be defined by their setback, like their breast cancer or, their traumatic brain injury or whatever it is that the, setback that they've had in their life, or, maybe even, being in a traumatic event. I was like, what if we took some of those people who've had a big life setback and turn it into a huge comeback story through adventure and
Uh-huh.
endurance sports? And so
Wow.
Project Athena was born with that idea of turning setbacks into comebacks.
Uh-huh.
And so our first adventure was, gosh, we started in 2009 and have
Oh
been
my.
going ever since. And so every year we take survivors and volunteers, if anyone wants to come
Uh-huh.
with us. We do everything as one big team. We
Oh
suffer
wow.
equally the whole way.
All right.
And so we take survivors and fundraisers who are our volunteers on 5 adventures per year. And so those adventures are, we do a Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim hike, where we hike all the way across the Grand Canyon and back in two
Right.
days. And then we do a kayak and bike ride down all the Florida Keys from Key Largo to Key
Yeah.
West over 3 days.
Wow.
And we do a 50-mile hike through the Red Rocks of Sedona
Oh my
over 2 days.
goodness.
So these are like big, big adventures
Uh-huh.
that you never really would try alone, but with a team and with
Mhm.
us and with my team of trail angels, who are all wearing these blue shirts, Project Athena, and so
Hey.
we're yay, so we're there to to facilitate all of these people's success. So all of our
Uh-huh.
adventures are between 10 and 45 people, and we all travel as one big team. And so we basically take people who aren't sure who they are anymore, after a big life
Mhm.
setback,
Mhm.
and we return them as a badass endurance athlete. It's the
Oh
coolest
my
thing. Like, they leave
goodness.
home as like their family's sick person, and they come back as their family's badass endurance athlete. And it's, yeah, it's such a huge transformation for people. And so one of our first Athenas was a girl named Allie, and
Okay.
she had torn her ACL in a
Oh,
soccer match.
okay.
And this is when she was 18 years old.
Oh my.
And for some reason, after the surgery, her leg became locked straight, like locked in the
Oh
straight position. And for
no.
4 years, no one could figure it out. She was on crutches for 4 years
Oh
with a
no.
locked straight leg, this poor kid.
Oh no.
And so she finally just said, take it off. I don't want this leg anymore. I'm just dragging around this, piece of wood
Mhm.
every day that's
Mhm.
attached to my body. And so as a 18-year-old kid, she made the decision to have an above the knee amputation.
Oh
And
no.
within a couple months, we had her out on the Florida Keys adventure. And
No way.
yeah, so she did a 120-mile kayak and bike ride from Key Largo to Key West.
Oh my
And
goodness.
and then she went on, because she was so excited about her capabilities after that. Like, she
Uh-huh.
rode a bike herself. She didn't even ride a
Right.
tandem bike. Like, she had
Right.
her prosthetic leg, and she rode her bike, and her leg was actually, like, the suction wasn't fully working on her prosthetic leg because her stump kept shrinking over
Oh,
time. And so she was riding down the street at the Florida Keys, and her leg popped out
oh
of the
no.
sleeve, and she fell into the street. And
Oh
we were
no.
all like, all of my coaches were just horrified, and because she's on the ground, and she's kind of like on the ground, and we can see her like kind of moving and shaking a little bit. We're like, oh my god, she's crying. And we come running up to her, stopping the cars, and we we pull up to her, and we're like, Allie, and she rolls over, and she is laughing so hard.
Wow.
she, she just thought that was the best thing that she's like, I am riding a bike in the Florida Keys. Like, this is one of the best days of my life. She goes, I don't care
Oh,
about any of this. And she was like so full of excitement about what her capabilities are,
uh-huh.
yada, yada, yada. 6 years later, she became a doctor and
Hey,
went, she
there
went,
you go.
she
Oh
went to
my
medical
goodness.
school. She became a doctor. She was on like the Paralympic skeleton team. Like
Oh,
she just,
wow.
yeah, she just went nuts with, with her capabilities after 4 years of, of wondering who she was or if she, anything was ever going to be the same. And so like people have those kind of like crazy transformations on our adventures. They don't want to stop. They're like, what else am I capable of? What else am I capable of? And then the ripple effect from that as well is so cool because our Athenas and Zeuses, we take male survivors too. They go home and there's this amazing ripple effect if they want to then help somebody else,
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
to walk a local
uh-huh.
5K or to do something that they never imagined they could do after a big life setback. We took 5 blind people on the Florida Keys
Oh my
last year.
goodness.
Yeah, blind. And they kayaked and biked and rode bikes 120 miles from Key Largo to Key West. And yeah, just gives people so
Robin.
much confidence in themselves. Like it's amazing.
Oh my goodness, that's why I said it really feels like a noble cause. And the way you tell these stories, I can see the brightness and the meaningfulness radiating off of you about the kind of life that you give or the new lease in life that they are given through the project that you guys. Um, I love how you said they come out as a badass, and that
Hmm.
just gives them the tools to kind of like lift themselves up and rebuild themselves and find something new and go on to continue that. I love it. It's the reading through that and researching through it. I said like, wow, it's so interesting, and I'm really wanting to
You got to come with
visit
us.
someday. Exactly, like exactly. I was
Come with
thinking
us, man.
about that
So just go
for
on to
sure.
projectathena.org. If you go on to projectathena.org, you can see all our adventures and you
Uh,
can you can apply to be one of our volunteers who's a god or goddess
okay.
and come with us. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Robin, as much as I'd like to hear more of your stories, I really do. We're nearing the end of this one. Um, I'd like to give you the opportunity, of course, towards the end to let us know what else you want the audience to know. But before that, with such a diverse and successful career, from world champion racers to firefighting to being an author, what what does the future look like for you, right, Robin? What are your plans moving ahead? And if there are any challenges you're aiming to explore, what is a new milestone you would like to achieve?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm gonna keep inspiring people as much as I
Oh,
possibly can. So, we're on the road half the year. We do about a little over 100 speaking events a year,
uh-huh.
which is so much fun. So I'm gonna definitely
Wow.
keep doing that. Keep coming up with new Project Athena adventures as
All
long as I
right.
can do them. As long as I'm still capable of doing them, which I hope is about another 20 years. Everybody knock wood at least. And I really hope to also have an animal sanctuary someday. That's kind of always
Oh,
been a dream of mine
in
to
San Diego?
rescue animals that no, actually in Sedona or
Okay.
Prescott, Arizona. To kind of take animals that are in shelters for long periods of time, the not super cute ones that no one can instantly,
Oh.
no one wants to instantly adopt. And I
Mhm.
also want to train rescue dogs for agility competitions. So
Wow.
yeah,
Those are a lot
that's
of
been. I have a lot of
big
things I want to
plans.
do.
Big plans, but
Yeah.
if anyone can achieve them, Robin, and what you've shown throughout your life and what you've shown the audiences today, you could definitely, not just you, all of us, right? We can all achieve our big dreams. We can always come back from a deep hole, a huge setback,
Yeah.
and come out a
It's
badass
just
like
focus.
Robin.
It's just focus. Yeah. Just remember, you're never defined by your setbacks. You're always defined by your comebacks. And so every setback that you have is an opportunity for a huge comeback story. And
That's fantastic.
yeah. And if you want to know more about the 8 essential elements
Yes,
of human
please.
synergy,
Mhm.
I wrote a book called How Winning Works.
How winning
And the
works.
subtitle is, yep, 8 essential leadership lessons from the toughest teams on earth. I did not title that. the the publisher titled that, but it's called
Okay,
How Winning
okay.
Works. And yeah, and it's basically like all these stories about adventure racing and firefighting, and kind of how we build a world-class team.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.